Ciao, everyone. Thank you so much for being here. My name is Avery Steele. I work in the admissions office at School Year Abroad, and this is our SYA Italy YouTube live event. Thanks for being here.
Hi, everyone. I'm Shauna Campbell, and I'm the admissions marketing manager here at SYA. Before we get started, I just want to point out the chat box, which you can find on the right-hand part of your screen. This box is great for you to introduce yourself. So if you're a parent watching, feel free to type in your name along with your student's name. And if you're a student, type in your name and where you go to school. It just gives us an idea of who's watching, and it will help us answer your questions at the end of the session. So the last 10 to 15 minutes, we'll turn it over to you guys to ask our guests any questions. So feel free to also start typing your questions there now or a little bit later on. So let's get started. So Avery, can you just tell us a little bit about SYA for those who aren't familiar with us?
Sure. For those of you who aren't familiar, School Year Abroad is a high school study abroad and homestay program for rising juniors, seniors, and a select group of sophomores. Today we'll be focused on campuses, of course, SYA Italy, which is located in Viterbo. Aside, there's no language requirement. You don't need to have studied Italian in order to go to SYA Italy. You can learn Italian when you get there.
Yeah, perfect. So now let's introduce our special guests. Joining us live from Viterbo, we have our resident director, Pat Scanlon, and two students. Students, can you please introduce yourselves and tell us your name, where you go to school, where you're from, and what grade you're in? And then Pat, right after they're done, feel free to talk a little bit about SYA Italy and what makes it so special.
My name is Carolina O'Leary. I go to the Madeira School in Virginia, and I am from DC, and I am a junior this year.
Hi, everybody. I'm Zach Wanger. I'm a junior in high school, and I go to the Latin School of Chicago.
So I'm Patrick Scanlon, resident director here in Viterbo. Viterbo is a town in central Italy, just north of Rome. Students who come to SYA Italy live with host families, study for the year, learn the language in the way that you can by living with a family and living in a new culture for a year. We're a school for adventuresome, independent-minded thinkers who are willing to do something incredibly exciting and brand new for their junior or senior year. And you will meet these two students better tonight who will tell you a little bit more what that's like for them. I say tonight because it is 9:30 p.m. in Viterbo.
Yes, thanks so much for joining us, especially this late at night for you guys. So let's start with the questions. Carolina, can you tell us why you decided to apply to SYA?
Okay, there were definitely a lot of reasons. I was very intrigued by the whole study abroad in high school. I knew I definitely wanted to do it in college, but then when I was presented the opportunity to be able to do it in high school, I kind of jumped on it. I was taking Italian actually before even thinking about coming to Italy. So it was perfect for me.
And Zach, what about you?
Let's see. So I had attended the same school since junior kindergarten, and I was kind of looking for an outlet to try something new and to see if I could push myself intellectually and give myself some harder experiences. And so my school is a partner school with SYA. And so last year, SYA did a presentation, and I was instantly hooked. So I decided to sign up, and
here he is.
Well, we're happy that you decided to join us tonight. So what is your favorite part about studying abroad in Viterbo so far?
Oh my gosh, that's a big one. I would definitely say, well, first, it's very interesting to be living with a host family. It's truly amazing how warm the people are here and how they just want to take you in and really have you. Well, me, I'm their daughter. They tell me that like every day. It's so special to have that connection. And then you're in a school with all these kids from all across the country who come from very different backgrounds and just bring something very fresh to the table. which just makes me, I love coming to school every day because I get to see all of them.
I definitely agree that the host families are an incredible experience. And to look at Viterbo as a city individually, I think it's a unique city in that the size makes it easier to integrate into the community, and particularly during the during the Journey program, where we get to attend a local liceo, a local high school. It makes it kind of unique because the people you meet in school, you'll be seeing every day on the streets. Like today I saw one of my best friends, Emilio from soccer, who I met at St. Journey, and I think that Viterbo is a perfectly sized city for experiences like that.
So let's talk a little bit about host families, since you both mentioned it. Can you just talk about your host families a little bit more? Maybe tell us, the structure of your host family, like who's in your host family, what do you like to do with them, and how is your host family similar or different to your family back at home?
Sure. So my host family is mom and dad and then two sisters, and they are honestly the best. The structure, the family bond is very, very prevalent. And I was a little worried coming into it that maybe, I would be a little bit on the outside, coming from like the United States, maybe, I don't know. But instantly they just kind of took me in, and they've exposed me to so much that when you don't live with a host family, you just couldn't pick up on these cultural norms.
Sure. So my family, I live with two host parents. My dad is named Massimo, my mother's named Michaela, and then I have two sisters and two brothers. Two sisters and one brother are younger, and then I have one older brother who's in the military currently. And then also I live with my Nona and Nono, who live next door.
Great. Awesome. So let's talk a little bit about school. You guys want to talk about maybe a favorite class that you're in right now, and then talk a little bit about the faculty members there at SYA Italy.
Okay. Favorite class, that'd be hard. I really do enjoy all my classes, and I think the classes here are specialized for us and for what we are doing here in Italy, which is amazing. I mean, considering the books we read in English, and then some of our classes are actually taught in Italian, which at first was a little bit difficult, but is honestly so fun and does really push us every day. My favorite class, I would have to say it's my global citizenship in the 21st century class. In that class, it's a little bit of current events. How else would I describe it? It's
politics, sociology.
Right. But through that class, I actually have been allowed to go to an international conference this year, where I will be presenting about the LGBTQ plus community with two other students. And then I'll also be doing Model UN in Rome later in March, which should be an amazing experience.
Say just a little bit more about that conference.
Oh, sure. So the international conference, it's called GIN, and it's hosted in Luxembourg. And every year, students from all over the world come and present different projects. And this year's theme is the world's most vulnerable populations.
I think I'm going to have to agree with Coco and say that the majority of my classes here are really excellent, and it's pretty hard to pick which one I prefer. But I think I'd have to pick my Italian class taught by Mrs. Tutsi. The reason why I like that class in particular is because coming to Italy without any language skills means it's kind of unique in that you're put in a situation where you have to kind of adapt quicker, and in many ways it's more it's useful in learning the language. But I thought coming into the program that my Italian class was going to be a class that would be a grind every day. I'd have to work ridiculously hard to get the grammar down, but I was just shocked at how fun and how simple, and in many ways how much of a community the class became. Learning the language became a lot easier once we were kind of well integrated with each other, and that's why I really love the class.
So speaking of Italian, how is your Italian now? So you've been there a little bit over a semester. Carolina, you said you have some experience with Italian, and Zach, you're brand new to it. What would you say your level is now, or how comfortable are you speaking it?
Well, I would say I'm pretty comfortable speaking it. I think SYA really does push us to be in those uncomfortable situations where we are just forced to talk to locals who don't know English. And I think that's definitely been one of the most important parts of learning the language so far. And I did take Italian before, but when you're actually living in the country, it is a whole different thing.
Yeah. I think as far as my Italian level goes, I feel very comfortable in conversation and in more adverse situations, but I still think there's room for me to grow in the areas of more advanced topics, which I think will just come with time. But I do think that the host family is the most useful in learning the language in the process, because being in an environment where the language is actively spoken is really what kind of makes it click in your head.
Would you guys mind demonstrating a little bit of your Italian speaking skills for us?
Why don't you say, I wouldn't mind at all.
What?
she said, would you mind?
Sorry, don't mean to put you guys on the spot, but you know, it's hard when you're talking about speaking Italian.
Sì, sì. Che possiamo dire?
Cosa vuoi dire? Senti, saluta i tuoi amici a casa.
Let's see.
What's hard is just to speak extemporaneously on, why don't you say something, I really enjoy living with my host family, and they have taught me a lot.
Mi piace tanto vivere con la mia famiglia italiana e mi hanno insegnato tanto.
There we go. All right. Good job, guys. Thanks for being such good sports. So let's actually move on and talk a little bit about sports. Can you talk about some extracurricular activities that either you are a part of or a friend is a part of, or that's available in Viterbo?
Sure. I mean, I could probably take this question. I have been participating in both SYA soccer and a local soccer team in the town where I live, which is just outside of Viterbo, called La Quercia. So I play soccer with the school Monday, and then every Tuesday, martedì e giovedì, every Tuesday and Thursday. I also play with the local team, which is a really unique experience, and I get to, it's a different style of soccer, so I think it's really unique getting to play with the people around, the locals, yeah.
For sure. I'd also, I mean, there are a lot of opportunities for extracurricular activities, which I really wasn't expecting coming to a medieval town in Italy. You can basically get anything that you really want. There's also a service component. I love community service, and I've been able to continue that here, serving food at the Mensa, which is a cafeteria.
Awesome. Let's talk a little bit about travel, whether it's with your class or independently. Where have you guys gone so far?
We've been all over the place. Tomorrow, Zach and I are actually going with a group of friends to Milan, which should be very exciting. But let's see, we started off the year, we went to Terracina, right?
Yeah.
We've taken a couple trips with the school. Terracina was one of them, right? And then what else did we do?
We took the school to Rome for a week.
Right, and then we went to Rome for a whole week. And then independent travel, we had our first one in December, and everyone was so excited to, start navigating Italy. We went to the north, we went to the Alps to go skiing for a bit, which was truly amazing. The thing about Italy is you can find any kind of city you really want. If you want something that's more metropolitan, you've got that. You've got a couple of those cities. If you want something, more nature, you've got the mountains. And if you want the sea, you've got the sea. So there's something for everyone.
Yeah, so I accompanied Coco up north to Cervinia, which is one of my favorite alpine ski towns in Italy. But there's also local travel opportunities that we get more frequently at any weekend after the first month, I believe.
November.
After
In
November.
November.
Yeah. So there, sorry. So around Viterbo, there are a lot of very interesting little towns. For example, my favorite is a little town called Bolsena, which is, 40 minutes by bus north, just over another local town called Montefiascone. And it's got a beautiful lake that is very fun to, during the spring, there's a lot of water sports there. It's an old, I believe it's a volcanic lake.
It is. Well, it is a volcano. It's Italy's deepest lake.
So in addition to more out of the regional, interregional travel, we've got a lot of local travel that's very interesting.
And of course, Rome is
2 hours away by train.
A little closer
Right.
than that.
And you guys talked about you moved to the school to Rome for a week. Can you maybe talk a little bit about that? Like what you guys did that week?
Sure. I mean, that week was packed. So before going, we had to create schedules for ourselves for every day. We had to look up online what exhibits were open, so that we could fill out a great schedule, where we wouldn't be bored any day or we wouldn't be stuck in the hotel. My favorite moment from that trip was definitely the Dreams exhibit at Chiostro del Bramante. There was an exhibit there. I thought it was going to be an art exhibit, but it turned out to be a mix of poetry and very contemporary art, that just, for me, redefined what an exhibit should be.
Yeah. So I also saw the Dreams exhibit, but in addition, some of the other cool things I did in Rome, I saw the Ovid Museum, where I got to learn about the Metamorphoses and Ovid's books on love, which were very interesting. Having come from a Latin background, it makes it even more rewarding to be in a place like Rome because it's so jam-packed with Latin history. But in addition, I saw one of my favorite art exhibits to date, the Andy Warhol Jackson Pollock exhibit, which was very interesting. And then we also got to do a lot of fun things like explore the Roman Forum.
Oh, and let's not forget the Real Madrid Roma soccer game.
Oh, yeah. Unfortunately, we lost.
Well, Real Madrid won.
What?
Something for everybody. A win, a loss.
So I only have a couple more questions. So before I ask those, I want to ask our viewers, if you do have questions for our guests, now's the time to put those in the chat box and we'll get to them in a couple minutes. So you guys have been here for a semester now. What's been kind of the highlight so far or your biggest takeaway from studying abroad at SYA Italy?
My biggest highlight, it wouldn't be one moment, but it would definitely be the relationships I've been able to curate while I've been over here, whether that's with Italians or with my teachers or with all my friends here. I really do feel like I'm in a community that wants me to be here and values what I have to bring to it. And I don't know. That just gives me a sense of confidence that I didn't have coming into the program, and I'd also say also a sense of independence, which has definitely been. I thought I was an independent person before coming to Italy, but coming here has really tried my independence, and I am so glad I've been able to push through those experiences where, you know, I didn't think I could do it by myself, but here I am.
I think in addition to a lot of those forms of growth, including independence, I think doing this abroad program kind of offers a door to the world. In many ways, I feel as though something that from Chicago seems kind of foreign to me, like exploring a European country by myself as a 16-year-old doesn't really seem like something that necessarily be accessible, but having traveled all the way to Florence by myself on trains and having gone through all these experiences, I feel as though I'm growing in ways that I can't. It's hard to describe how unique it is to be growing at such a young age in such vital areas. And I think that the biggest takeaway from the year is that the world is not a singular place, and that it's very accessible, and that if you want to go do something, no matter what age, it's just important that you're driven and you can go do it.
Great answers. So my last question is, if you had a piece of advice to give a student who was considering SYA, what would that be?
Just go for it. Honestly, your hesitations are important, but I think that this experience is something that if you have the chance and you have the opportunity to be able to take it, then you should jump on it.
Yeah, and I'd say every single person can use this opportunity differently, and I think if you're in the spirit to push yourself, and if you're in the spirit to grow, then this is one of the most perfect opportunities to do so. And doing it so young will initiate so much for your life, and I really think it's a worthwhile thing to do.
Awesome. All right, so Avery, can you look at our chat box and start answering people's questions?
Absolutely. We have one parent who's asked a question that is regarding the extracurriculars, both Carolyn and Zach mentioned earlier. So this parent wants to know, how did you all find the extracurriculars that you got involved in? Did the school or did your host family show you? Please.
Okay, so that is definitely not a problem here. That's why we have an extracurricular coordinator, Dave Fletcher. He is the best, and he really just wants to push everyone to do exactly what they love, and he will go to all lengths to find an activity that you really want to take part in.
Exactly. I told him at the beginning of the year I wanted to do guitar lessons, and he found me a guy named Lorenzo Cantorini, who performs all around Italy and is really a great resource. And I wanted to join a local soccer team. He had a guy, he called him up. It's honestly incredible to have a director like that. And he's also so versatile. For example, with my capstone project coming up, I wanted to do some investigation into space travel and the Italian Space Association. And of course, Dave had a connection at the Air Force Base, and it's likely that I'll be able to talk to an astronaut coming up soon from Viterbo, which is
that's so cool.
Dave's just the coolest.
Why am I not surprised? He's such a well-connected individual. That's awesome.
So another question we have sort of echoes a question we hear a lot. This parent wanted to know if your reasons for joining SYA or for applying and actually going over to SYA, if you think they seem typical. Is the question we sort of get a lot is like, what type of student is the right student for SYA? What kind of student is a typical SYA student? Pat, I don't know if you can speak to that more than the students with you. The students can speak more to it, but Is there really an answer for that? What would you say?
Wow, that's a hard, only because our students differ so much from one another from year to year. What is typical, I'll be really honest, is everybody says they want to push themselves out of their comfort zone. And when it happens, and when you become uncomfortable, that's when the learning occurs. And so it's an easy, I think you guys would agree, it's an easy thing to say. And it's the ones who want to face that, accept it, and look for resources to help them through it, because there is some discomfort. Things get hard. Not understanding, not being able to express yourself at the beginning, homesickness. What's typical of our students is resilience, grit, looking for the resources locally to face those uncomfortable moments, and then have a sense of accomplishment when they've done so. That takes some wherewithal, and that would be typical of our students to be able to do that.
I would also say like a sense of curiosity too. I think being here, you really do have to want to explore, because there are so many resources just literally lying on the street. And if you don't have that sense of curiosity, you wouldn't really get as much out of the year as you would want to.
Yeah, I think they summed it up pretty well, but I just want to say, I think, like Mr. Scanlon said, there's a wide range of people that I think can really succeed in this program. But one thing that is very consistent is the ability to deal with adversity well, and to utilize resources and find a lot of growth opportunities. And that's something that anyone can do, but learning to excel in it is something that can also happen here. But I think that's a quality that is very common within the students.
That's really great. Thank you. Those are really good answers. We have one parent who wants to know if she's allowed to come see her kid if they do go abroad to SYA Italy. Have any of you had family members visit or planning to visit at any point during the year?
And Pat, when's a good time for parents to visit?
We do ask parents to wait until the students have acclimated here and established those anchors and immersive qualities that make it worthwhile. I think both of your parents have visited. So we do get an amazing number of parents visit, because Italy is such a great destination. We love it when our students can show off what they know about the place and their language skills and how they've now begun to fit in so well. So yeah, we, as a homestay program, I will say that we ask that students stay in their homestays while parents visit, which is sometimes awkward, but it's programmatic that way. Our rule is that if you have school the next day, even if your parents are in town, you're staying with your host family. If there's no school the next day, you can stay with your parents.
Great.
Thank you. Yeah, and it looks like we had a couple more questions, but I really felt like they were answered by some of the answers you all gave in previous for the previous questions. So I think that's about it for our chat box questions.
Great. So I guess we'll start wrapping up now. Avery, do you want to just talk a little bit about our deadlines, our application deadline, financial aid deadline, all that good stuff?
Yeah, absolutely. So our application deadline for all of your essays and recommendations and things like that, that is February 8th. And the deadline to get your financial aid application in is February 15th. So definitely make sure you go on our website. And if you have any questions about it, please reach out to our office. We're always here to help.
Yeah, so I want to shout out everyone who's already applied. Congrats, you've made the first big step. So good for you. And if you have any questions for us in the meantime, like Avery said, please contact our office. And I guess last but not least, if you haven't done so already, feel free to follow us on social media. We are on Instagram, YouTube, Twitter, and Facebook. And before we go, I'd like you all to say goodbye to our guests. So guys, if you want to just wave and say goodbye to everybody, and thank you so much for joining us tonight and taking the time. We appreciate it a lot, and I'm sure our viewers do too.
Buona giornata.
Ciao.
Ciao.
Buona giornata.
All right. Bye, guys. Thanks so much.
Welcome. Grazie a voi. Ciao ciao.
Grazie.
Ciao.
Ciao.